When we think about muscle growth, the conversation almost always starts and ends with lifting heavy weights, hitting protein targets, and maybe throwing in a few supplements like creatine or beta-alanine. But what if I told you that the real architect of your muscle gains is something you almost never hear about in the gym? It's not your biceps. It's not your bench press max. It's your immune system. Every time you pick up a barbell or push through an intense workout, you're not just training your muscles. You're deliberately causing microscopic injuries inside those fibers, tiny tears that send out a silent alarm. And when that alarm goes off, your immune system is the first to respond. Neutrophils, macrophages, T cells, the same cellular army that protects you from infections, shows up at the scene of the crime. At first, they swarm in like demolition crews, tearing down and clearing out the damaged tissue. Then, as the dust settles, they transform into builders, signaling your muscle stem cells to wake up, multiply, and fuse into the fibers, making them bigger, stronger, and more resilient than before. Without this immune response, lifting weights would be pointless. You'd break down muscle tissue, but nothing would rebuild it. No recovery, no growth, no adaptation. The immune system is the silent partner in hypertrophy, and once you understand how it works and how to optimize it, you can finally unlock the full potential of your training. So in this video, we're going to explore the hidden role of your immune system in muscle growth. We'll talk about why delayed onset muscle soreness isn't just pain, but proof that your immune system is doing its job. We'll follow the timeline of how different immune cells show up after a workout. Neutrophils first, then macrophages, then T cells, and how each one plays a specific role in recovery and hypertrophy. And most importantly, we'll break down how you can support this system with the right nutrition, sleep, training frequency, and recovery strategies, so your immune system works with you, not against you. Because the truth is, hypertrophy is not just about lifting heavy or hitting macros. It's about creating the right biological environment for growth. And that means training smarter, recovering properly, and understanding the immune system's role in building the physique you want. Why the immune system builds muscle. When you finish a hard set, your muscles aren't just tired, they're damaged. Not catastrophically, but enough that individual fibers are frayed and stressed. This isn't a design flaw, it's the point. Resistance training works by breaking you down just enough to force your body to rebuild stronger. But here's the critical detail. Your muscles don't repair themselves on their own. They don't magically grow back while you sleep. The first responders in this process are immune cells. Think of your muscles as a construction site. The workout is the wrecking ball. It knocks things loose, it scatters debris, and it leaves a mess behind. If you left the site in that state, you'd just have broken structures with no plan to rebuild. That's where your immune system comes in. It's both the cleanup crew and the foreman directing the rebuild. Neutrophils and macrophages are like the demolition workers with brooms and bulldozers, sweeping up the wreckage and carting it away. Then once the ground is cleared, they flip roles, pulling out blueprints and calling in the builders, your satellite cells, to reconstruct everything bigger and better. Without this immune activation, resistance training would be self-destructive. You'd accumulate damage, but you'd never adapt. Muscle fibers would remain torn, inflammation would smolder, and instead of becoming stronger, you'd become weaker and more injury-prone. Every gain in size, every increase in strength, depends on this handoff between exercise and immunity. The immune system translates the chaos of training into the order of adaptation. This is why optimizing your immune response is not some fringe idea. It's central to hypertrophy. Training is the signal, but the immune system is the executor. If the signal is strong but the execution is poor, you don't grow. That's the reality most lifters overlook. The biggest muscles aren't just built in the gym, they're built by the immune system afterward. DOMS and the first responders. We've all felt it. That dull, aching stiffness that sneaks up the day after a brutal leg day. You sit down, and your quads scream. You reach overhead, and your lats feel like they're made of stone. This is DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. And while most lifters treat it like a badge of honor or a punishment to endure, in reality, it's the clearest sign that your immune system is hard at work. Here's what's actually happening inside your sore muscles. Within just a few hours of training, your body dispatches the first responders, neutrophils. These white blood cells arrive in force, swarming the damaged fibers like firefighters rushing into a building. They release chemicals that break down torn proteins and begin clearing out the wreckage. In the process, they also irritate the surrounding tissue and sensitize pain receptors, which is why DOMS builds slowly and peaks between 24 and 48 hours after training. The soreness isn't random. It's the inflammation created by neutrophils doing their job. But neutrophils don't act alone. Following them are macrophages, arriving in their aggressive M1 state. If neutrophils are the firefighters, macrophages are the demolition crew. They engulf dead cells, secrete more inflammatory signals, and keep the site primed for a full cleanup. This double wave of neutrophils and macrophages explains why DOMS doesn't hit immediately after exercise, but ramps up over time. It's not lactic acid, that clears in hours. It's your immune army swarming the battlefield. So when you wake up sore the next day, that pain is not pointless. It's evidence that your immune system is stripping out the old and making way for the new. DOMS is the language your body uses to tell you the rebuilding has begun. Switching from destruction to repair. If neutrophils are the firefighters and M1 macrophages are the demolition crew, then what happens next is the turning point, the moment when chaos gives way to construction. After roughly 2 to 3 days, the immune system flips a critical switch. Those same macrophages that once fueled inflammation and soreness now change their personality. They shift into what scientists call the M2 state, macrophages that are calm, cooperative, and focused on rebuilding rather than tearing down. This is the moment when your body moves from destruction into repair. The storm of inflammation begins to subside. Swelling decreases, pain starts to ease, and the local environment inside the muscle changes. Instead of flooding the area with destructive chemicals, M2 macrophages release healing factors, signals that reduce inflammation and encourage muscle regeneration. They are no longer the wrecking crew, they are now the foremen calling in the builders. But macrophages don't do this alone. T cells, another branch of your immune system, step in as regulators. Think of them as project managers, ensuring the cleanup phase doesn't drag on too long. They temper inflammation, prevent runaway damage, and create the conditions for muscle stem cells to step forward. Without this immune handover, you'd be stuck in a cycle of endless soreness with no real adaptation. This balance is delicate. If inflammation shuts down too early, you don't fully clear the damage. If it lingers too long, recovery stalls and chronic inflammation takes over, blocking hypertrophy. But when the immune system nails this transition from destruction to repair, your muscles are perfectly primed to grow. Satellite cells, the builders. Now that the immune system has cleared the wreckage and calmed the storm, the real builders can step in, satellite cells. These are your muscles' resident stem cells, sleeping quietly along the edges of your fibers until they're called into action. And what wakes them up? The signals released by those immune cells we've been talking about. In the early days, when neutrophils and M1 macrophages dominate, satellite cells are shaken awake. They start multiplying, preparing a workforce of new cells that can be used for repair. But they don't fuse yet. They wait until the immune environment changes, until the M2 macrophages show up and release their growth signals. That's the cue for satellite cells to switch gears. They stop multiplying and begin to fuse directly into your damaged fibers, patching tears and adding new nuclei. Those extra nuclei matter. Each one acts like a control center, capable of managing a section of the muscle fiber. More nuclei means more protein production capacity, more ability to grow. This is one of the reasons hypertrophy isn't just about repairing damage, it's about permanently upgrading the muscle's blueprint. You're not just returning to baseline, you're building new capacity for future growth. And all of this, the waking up, the multiplying, the fusing, is orchestrated by immune cells. Without macrophages flipping to their healing role, satellite cells would stay dormant. Without T cells keeping inflammation in check, the builders couldn't work in peace. It's a seamless handoff. The immune system sets the stage, and satellite cells do the construction. Together, they transform soreness into size and damage into strength, optimizing your immune system for growth. Now that we've followed the immune system's journey from chaos to construction, the question becomes, how do you, as an athlete or lifter, actually optimize this process? Because the difference between sore but strong and sore and stagnant often comes down to how well your immune system can do its job. The first pillar is nutrition. Muscle growth is an energy-intensive process, and your immune system is a voracious consumer of fuel. After hard training, white blood cells and satellite cells alike need amino acids to rebuild proteins, carbohydrates to restore glycogen and power immune activity, and micronutrients to keep inflammation balanced. Protein provides the raw material for repair, but don't underestimate carbohydrates. They prevent the immune system from cannibalizing protein for energy. Add to this vitamin D, which helps regulate immune balance, and omega-3 fatty acids, which dampen excessive inflammation without shutting it down completely. Think of nutrition not as feeding the muscles, but as feeding the immune builders. The second pillar is sleep. This is when your immune army resets and regroups. During deep sleep, immune cells redistribute, growth hormone surges, and tissue repair is at its peak. Short-changing sleep is like sending workers home halfway through a rebuild. The site remains half-finished, and you carry yesterday's damage into today's training. If hypertrophy is the goal, then 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep isn't negotiable. It's part of the training program. The third pillar is recovery timing. Remember the immune timeline. Neutrophils dominate the first day, macrophages switch roles by day 2 or 3, and the real rebuilding begins by day 4. This means your training schedule should respect this biology. Hammering the same muscle group every 24 hours only reopens wounds that the immune system hasn't finished patching. Giving each muscle group 48 to 72 hours between heavy sessions aligns perfectly with how your immune system operates. It's not weakness to rest. It's synchronizing with the very system that makes growth possible. And finally, there's the principle of not interfering with the process. It's tempting to pop painkillers or jump into an ice bath the moment soreness hits, but doing so immediately after training can blunt the very inflammation that signals your muscles to grow. That inflammation is uncomfortable, but it's productive. Save those tools for extreme cases, a competition, an injury, or times when soreness threatens performance. For everyday training, let your immune cells run their course. Optimizing your immune system for hypertrophy doesn't mean buying exotic supplements or chasing biohacks. It means aligning your habits, how you eat, how you sleep, how you train, and how you recover, with the natural rhythm of your immune response. Do that and every workout becomes more than just fatigue in the gym. It becomes a carefully managed cycle of breakdown and rebuild, guided by your body's most powerful hidden ally, your immune system. By now, you can see that muscle hypertrophy is not just about lifting weights or hitting macros. It's about creating the right biological environment for growth, and that environment is orchestrated by your immune system. Every workout is a controlled injury. Every ache of DOMS is your immune cells rushing in. Neutrophils arrive first to clear the wreckage. M1 macrophages follow, intensifying the cleanup. Then, just when it matters most, they flip into their M2 healing state, supported by T cells regulating the balance. And finally, they awaken your satellite cells, the builders, who fuse with your fibers, upgrade your blueprint, and expand your capacity for growth. This is why soreness isn't meaningless. It's why rest isn't weakness. And it's why recovery is just as important as the training itself. When you optimize your nutrition, you give your immune system the fuel it needs. When you prioritize sleep, you give it time to reset. When you respect recovery timing, you align your workouts with your immune rhythm. And when you avoid blunting inflammation too early, you let the signals for growth do their job. The takeaway is simple. Hypertrophy is a partnership. Training provides the stimulus. Your immune system provides the response. Ignore that, and you leave gains on the table. Respect it, fuel it, and align with it, and you unlock the full potential of your body's design. So next time you're sore, don't curse your DOMS. Don't rush to shut down the discomfort. Instead, remember that soreness is your immune army working overtime, rebuilding you stronger than before. The pain is temporary, but the adaptation is permanent. If this helped you see your training from a new perspective, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Do you train with your immune system in mind? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, it's not just about lifting harder. It's about recovering smarter. Because growth doesn't happen in the gym. It happens here, in the hands of your immune system.